Not right now. He with the slick black power sound. Don't get tired of me. I was like Cuddy, dead presidents, feeling it for hubby. Then I read the story of Boot Margetti. It really did touch me. Time went on, he continued to tuck me. 5 in the morning, deep in the study, the African norm. So imperative that I know thyself, that I love thyself. Yeah, everyone's someone else. I bet you the sun won't melt, and I bet that line for some won't help. What's information with no application? A conscious community acting Caucasian. It's more than a rare occasion. It's a lot of y'all faking. Then read those books, heard those lectures. Negroes, get yourself together. Let's grow. You conscious now. Let's grow. You conscious now. Read those books, heard those lectures. Negroes, get yourself together. Let's grow. You conscious now. Let's grow. You conscious now. Cops killing scores all the more. Reason to burn in Baltimore and anywhere else. Our people get tortured. I don't want to hear from the coons and horses. They keep asking us to be patient. We know the verdict, exoneration. We know the feeling, frustration. We know the preachers speak to ease us. Just leave it, the crack of Jesus. Integrate like a pack of zebras. Get lost in a cycle of the insane. Let me explain. There's no love in the Aryan's veins. Only our sick would expect their change. Cut those chains. Free your Abdullah. I don't want to lose you. Let's go. Then read those books, heard those lectures. Negroes, get yourself together. Let's grow. You conscious now. Let's grow. You conscious now. Read those books, heard those lectures. Negroes, get yourself together. Let's grow. You conscious now. Let's grow. You conscious now. Never surrender to the agenda. No homos or transgenders. Don't see who are for the fifth. The Pan-African psychologist. Maybe he can help you find a cure. I've been Botswana's elegant resort. Beautiful queen, structure gorgeous. The perfect for black male absorption. How much truth comes from the study? If the LGBT from the study, just asking as in use scholastic skills acquired in higher classes. Open and magnify your glasses. Third identify them faggots. Stand hope for Baku. That's power and control over you. Then read those books, heard those lectures. Negroes, get yourself together. Let's grow. You conscious now. Let's grow. You conscious now. Read those books, heard those lectures. Negroes, get yourself together. Let's grow. You conscious now. Let's grow. You conscious now.
My ancestors woke me up this morning. They say, son, you do know what time it is, don't you? I said, what time is that? They said it's wartime. So welcome to the War Front, brothers and sisters. Here on another Chopping It Up with the Genie, live at Everlasting Life here, 9185 Central Avenue, Capitol Heights, Maryland. So we're going to have a fantastic discussion, very serious one this afternoon. You know what? I forgot to open up the phone line, so let me go ahead and do that now because we're going to definitely want people calling in. Or you also can write on Facebook because I can actually look and see you live on Facebook. We're going to have some real serious dialogue this afternoon. We're going to talk about a number of things. We're going to talk about, of course, the Philando Castile verdict, where the police officer who, I would say a terrorist in a police uniform who executed our brother Philando Castile was actually let off by the jury and found not guilty of the murder that he committed. We're going to talk about Bill Maher, Ice Cube, and the N-word. So we're going to have some good dialogue today. It's going to be probably controversial to some. I don't know how many black people that will be listening that will have much controversy over how we feel about what happened to our brother Philando Castile. But we're going to talk about all that this evening. Let me go ahead and get signed in first so that I can get this set up. Give me one moment. Glad you're tuning in. Glad everybody go ahead and send it around to brothers and sisters. And again, like I said, you're going to be able to comment on Facebook. And then I'll be able to answer some of your comments there as well. I see some of you all there right now who are reaching in, contacting us here. So let me go ahead and you can put I see Brother Trevor's in the house. Got other brothers and sisters. You can go ahead and comment on the Facebook live feed. Show that you're in the house. I'm dialing into the conference call line now so I can tell everybody that they can go ahead and get in. Let's see. Let's go ahead and how do we start one? All right. Let's see, log out. Give me one moment, brothers and sisters. and then we're going to jump right into this discussion. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. One moment, brothers and sisters. I thought she said she canceled it. Let me see. Okay. Give me one moment, brothers and sisters. I think we're going to do, we actually have somebody else that's going to come into our program. Give me a moment. Give me one moment. We actually have an African Center School that we actually, I think we're going to go ahead and bring in. So we're going to actually do that before we get into the main part of our topic. So give me one moment, brothers and sisters. Yes. Absolutely good. We actually have something called up again. Not a problem.
This is Renard Boyer. He's a former student.
All right. Come on in. We actually live as we speaking now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move these chairs around here. Let me move this here and this here, and then if you all could come and sit right here. Let's take a seat right here. This is fantastic. All right. All right. How you doing, brothers and sisters that are out there live? We actually have a great treat about what we're about to do today. We have, okay, wait, we got this. We're going to have to move it. There we go. We actually have an African-centered school in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And it's called LIFT, the Academy for Ideal Education. And this is a school, when we actually talked to our sister here about coming and doing the interview, one of the things we discussed was, it's one thing to have people talk about a school who run the school, but it's an entirely different thing to actually have people who attend the school and can tell us about the type of independent African-centered learning that's occurring in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. So again, I'll show you here. The name of the school is the Academy for Ideal Education, LIFT. Learning is the fun thing. It's fun time. And this is an African Center School. It's right on 4501 Dix Street Northeast in Washington, D.C. Actually right over there in Deanwood. And without any further ado, we actually have the proprietor of the school. And we also have one of the young brothers who actually attends the school live in studio, so we can learn more about the school, what it does, what it offers, and how people in the local area who wish to have their students attend the school, how they can make that happen.
So hello, I am Paulette Jones-Iman, the Academy for Ideal Education's founder and director. But this is Reynard Ware, and he formerly attended the school a few years ago, but since has graduated from, he attended the school from
3rd grade to 9th grade, and went on to Calvin Coolidge for a bit of the end of my high school career, and then went on to Morehouse College, and now I'm at Georgetown University for grad school. So.
Oh man, okay, that's fantastic. So now I have to ask you the question, how many years has the school been open?
We've been as a full-time school since 1991. As a tutorial and enrichment center, we started in 1978. So we've been around for a while.
Wow, and what's so interesting, my mother moved to Deanwood in 1988, and I lived over there for a long time and was not aware of this school.
Well, we started in Northwest Washington, D.C.
Okay.
We were up on Gallatin Street, what we called our little schoolhouse.
Yeah.
All right, and so you've grown since that time. So Why don't we start like this? Why don't you give us a history of what made you decide that you wanted to do this school, some of the trials and tribulations you had in doing the school, and then we'll after we get a brief history of the founding of the school and some of the difficulties you had doing it and some of the ups and downs, then we'll turn to the young man and then talk about your personal experience having gone to the school and how it's helped you get to where you are today.
Yeah, definitely.
So I started teaching in Washington, D.C. In the late 60s. And one of the things that I was teaching in the public schools, and I really loved our children and the whole concept of teaching, but there were so many children in a school, in a classroom, that I always felt I couldn't reach everyone. So I wanted to do something where I could make sure I reached them.
Okay.
And I also thought, and my last teaching experience in the public school was with Duke Ellington School of the Arts, and I considered that a perfect teaching program where you can do what you want to do and reach children. But the real thing was that I still wanted to do more. And rather than continuing to sit in the teacher's lounge or sit around and talk about what's wrong with the system, I thought, well, why don't you just do it?
That's beautiful.
Do what you think that you can do. And I also wanted to make sure that the program was holistic, that it had to be about African people and what's best for them, for us. And it had to also just be well balanced. So that's what I started doing.
So what was your primary background in the years coming up to starting the school?
I taught, you mean my focus when I was teaching?
Yes.
I'm an English teacher,
Okay.
and I also taught reading. Now that was my real consideration. It seems to me that if you don't learn to read, you don't learn.
Mm.
And so it is the basis of everything else. Of course, if you don't learn math, it's almost as detrimental, but you almost can't even learn math without learning to read.
You got to be read numbers in order to do math. So, okay.
So, and I felt like I received tools, a technique, how to teach reading, and especially involving using phonics to teach reading.
Now, can I ask you a question? Because that's so important. You really hit in a place I really want to ask. I know that in the modern environment, they have, like I've gone and looked when I'm trying to, I have a 5-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son, when I'm trying to teach them. I grew up at Ann Beers, started there in Green Elementary, then Ann Beers, Miss Walls, and Miss Ralph. Phonics was fundamental because even if you didn't recognize the word, you'd be able to figure it out, and it forces you to think and in critical thinking. Where today, when I'm trying to do it with my children, I hear other people saying that's not the way to do it. They're supposed to do it by word recognition. Could you speak to that and what your opinion is on that?
Well, I actually think that they do have these techniques, what they call word recognition. I think that's really a disservice to us. Because when you learn the basis, when you learn the elements of a product, then you can create the product.
Anytime you want to.
Anytime you want to. And so it just really leaves blanks, it leaves gaps in education. And the other thing is that my enthusiasm for that, when I was tutoring, I would teach one-on-one, small groups, and bring little children in. I actually had this wonderful woman to teach me, did not learn that in public schools, but to teach me the whole system of phonics, a wonderful system. And she had created some books and some material around it that I took and kind of made them what I consider ideal in terms of bringing in what is culturally how we learn, with the phonics, with the rhythm and the beats and music and movements. And so we were using that to teach. And teaching students in that way where they're enjoying it as well as when they are really getting it from the basics, they just soar. And so that was really what I wanted to make sure that we started in early to teach them the fundamentals.
Okay, so you went from being an English teacher and you said you said English
And reading.
and reading to saying it's time for me to start my own program. You started your own school. Were there any difficulties you had when you started school, or was it like once you decided to start, everybody came on board and it was just a smooth transition? We wish, don't we?
Yes. The truth is that, of course, there were many, many difficulties, and it seems to me that the more important what you're doing, the greater the obstacles. And those obstacles are not just because you're going to reach some obstacles, but they're really to make sure
I
that
guess my name
you're
is Alex.
stronger
A great show. I look forward to listening. Thank you.
Sorry, they left that on us. I don't know how to work that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, so there, of course, there were difficulties, but there was one other thing that I intended, that I was passionate about, just like the reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned to teach meditation in the 70s. And I thought, wow, to be able to teach students how to handle the stress and to give them tools for life, that not only in terms of academia, but also in terms of how do I move through my life with tools that when I reach difficulties, I can face them. So the meditation was not only helpful for me when I reached the difficulties, but because they gave me an inner strength, gave me a way to refuel and
No messages.
to refuel and to just to re-energize.
So is meditation part of the curriculum, or is it part of just a holistic school approach, or is it actually a class in of itself?
We made it a part of everyday morning. We had what we call our morning opening. Raynard could talk about that.
Yeah, so when I first got the idea, I was like, what is this school? Coming from DC Public Schools, then transitioning over to like the private school.
What grade did you come in?
Third grade.
Okay.
Third grade. So third grade came in, it was this little house, colorful house uptown on Gallatin Street. And as soon as I got there, it was small classrooms. There was more one-on-one time with teachers, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, someone can really like focus in on me and talk to me. And because when you're at like a big school and it's like 30 kids in the classroom, you really don't get that one-on-one time with a teacher, and Ideal was perfect for that. And morning meditation was really how I got going. So like they say, breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So we would eat breakfast and then we would go ahead and do meditation. And from there, you just get the day started. And
so what was the reason that your parents took you from the school you were in to come to this school?
yeah, so second grade, I had an incident with a DCPS teacher. It actually made like, there was like this huge case, and it was a big lawsuit. And then they let my mom choose what school for me to go to, and she looked into Ideal. I think she heard about it from a friend, and I went there, and the rest was history.
So out of tragedy, we had a huge, great situation.
Exactly. That incident was critical to like my development and figuring out like how I can cope with like trauma, because as a kid, living in a single parent household, a lot of drug dealers around, a lot of real bad influencers in your life, and then you come to a school where you spend like 8 hours a day and you get breakfast, you meditate, and then you learn. That was really vital into my development. So Ideal was awesome.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And so you said you went there from 3rd to 9th grade.
3rd to 9th grade. Yep.
Okay, so What were the, if you could say now, the main thing when you left from second grade, going into third grade into this new environment, what was the thing that stands out most? And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna probably, we have an engineer, but he walked out, he stepped out. And so this is going off, and I have never used it before, so I'm just gonna unplug it, figure out how to unplug it.
Okay.
But the question I wanna ask you is, you in, I guess, kindergarten, first and second. Then you get to third grade, and this is a whole new environment. In that year, what were the things that you noted that was different about Ideal than the schools you were dealing with when you were dealing with public school?
Yeah, so I think the thing that was different was the specialized teaching. So all the teachings at Ideal were like tailored to your specific capabilities. So say you wasn't on the right reading level, you had people who actually worked with you to get there. And say if you wasn't on the right math level, you actually had people in that one-on-one time for you to get there. So math was one of my favorite subjects, and I also wrote poetry that helped me with writing. But math was one of those subjects that was really standard and really like took my educational career off. So
Okay. So the primary thing you got that you can remember the difference was that in the school before, if you were behind or whatever the case may be, you didn't have time to the teacher to come and help you. You had to just keep up or just sink or swim.
Yeah.
Here, you have far fewer children in the classroom.
Yeah.
And so the teacher would take specific time to see what your particular need was
Yes.
and would help you achieve that.
Definitely.
How do you think that's impacted you in your life? You said you graduated from Morehouse. You're now at George Washington University. Very clean, sharp, well-spoken young man. How do you think this impacted you?
So I think specialized teaching was just very vital. I mean, like I said, the meditation piece of Ideal was good.
And tell us a little bit about that. Okay, you say in the morning you meditated, but give us a more detailed, practical. We want to understand. So I'm going into school. I'm in third grade.
Yeah,
I don't know about meditation. Talk to me.
Yeah, so say you just want to get to school and you're like bouncing off the walls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just to go and be focused and learn breathing techniques that really calm your nerves and really relax you before you get into the classroom and you start working the brain. So I feel like that was really good for me in the fact that I was labeled emotionally disturbed and had ADHD. I mean, this type of foundation really equipped me with the tools to go out and conquer everything in the classroom that need to be done.
So now let's go back, and you don't have to get into the details of it because you just said something, and what I'm sensing here, this is a really good story because I'm hearing parts that you're not saying, but what I'm hearing is, so you were one of those brothers who, if you're in George Washington University now for your master's program, Georgetown University, and you graduated from Morehouse, obviously you're not ADHD.
Yeah, exactly.
So somehow through the public school system, you were misdiagnosed as being someone who had learning disabilities.
Yeah.
So here's my question, and you can go to it as much as you want.
Yeah.
But the incident in second grade, was that one of the things that they used to try to classify you because you had a disagreement with a teacher?
Yeah.
Was it a black teacher?
White teacher.
Do you feel that the disagreement had any relevance to the racial differences, or no? You think it was just a teacher and there was a difference and y'all had a conflict?
Yeah, I mean, you can say there was some cultural competency when you hire TFA teachers to come in the inner city to teach you.
What's TFA?
Teach for America.
Okay.
They hire these teachers and they really don't have a teaching
They never been around
foundation.
black people.
Yeah, exactly. That and just learn the techniques for teaching because this is a very skilled profession.
Okay.
And you can't just be a smart individual and hop into a classroom and think you can teach someone.
And so they and what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but they had the piece of paper, but that doesn't mean that they had the time one-on-one actually going through the process of nurturing and teaching people.
The skill, exactly.
Okay.
You said it right. And I think that piece is missing, not in every DC public schools, but from my experience from, let's say, K through K through second grade, that that happened, and a lot of African American young men get labeled, and that's not the case. A lot of them just need specialized teaching to cater to their capabilities, and when I went to Ideal, I got that.
So, in your opinion, we know now, we're hearing that Ideal helps you slow down and think and get ready for learning. You had these wonderful teachers who would spend their specific time helping you with your specific needs to get you to where you are today. What do you think, looking back on it, looking at your experience, which seemed very traumatic, at second grade, that has to be pretty traumatic, to be in the news and all this kind of thing. If you hadn't gone through that, and I'm assuming in order for you to be at a wonderful educational institution like this, your mother had to be strong enough to stand her ground and fight for you.
Yeah.
If you didn't have that in your corner, you didn't have the Ideal education, you didn't have the mother that helped you get to Ideal, where do you think, if you had to draw the conclusion, the direction you were headed, where would you be today?
Right now, I know a lot of guys who like still on the corner, just like selling drugs in and out of jail. I think that would have probably been a route I would have went down. But along with Ideal, I also played football too. So played football at Morehouse, scholarship athlete, and it wasn't just the athletic piece, but it was also the academic piece that I learned at Ideal that really took me over the top in terms of like complementing the athletic piece. So.
Okay. So was there an athletic program at Ideal, or you just played football outside of Ideal?
I played football outside of Ideal, but I also played basketball at Ideal, so that kind of like,
So you were an athlete and an intellectual, so you had it all going on.
Yeah, definitely.
So now, were you one of his actual teachers directly, or?
I don't think so. At that time, I was not teaching.
Okay.
Most of the time I was, but he's asked about several of his teachers, and I think one of the other things is that we have always been fortunate to have strong black men to come in and teach at Ideal. And so they not only came in as teachers, sometimes counselors. For example, the coach of the basketball team at that time was the counselor, their therapist, and they really embraced our youth. And we're still fortunate enough to get young black men to come in. In the conspiracy to destroy black males, you ever heard of it? One of the solutions that the brother gives us is that he makes a statement. He says that 95% of black males will go through school without having a black male teacher. And he said one of the solutions is to get. So I am so grateful. I'm grateful to have the teachers who have always been there. But when they teach, they don't just teach. It's like they take on these young people as their
family.
family.
Yeah,
And when we call Baba and Mama, one of the kids said to me, "Mama, don't you get it?" Yes, you are my mama. Because sometimes I have had the experience of taking some of the students home as my children. So just reminded me that it's just a natural outgoing of when you run a school like that. And so I think that is a part of how you can steer them different. And then when you get strong black men who actually believe in the culture, who believe in cultural education and have followed that path with their families and their lives, then it becomes a tremendous asset.
So if you knew close, I mean, you might not know the exact numbers, but what percentage of your teaching body is male?
Now,
Yes.
oh, let's see. Well, we're small now, and so I might have 7 or 8 teachers, 5 of which are males.
Wow. And I can tell you, just going around through the schools in the city and the local area, that percentage, over 50% of the teachers being male, and that's not normal.
Well, I think the other thing that I am really grateful for is that my age now, so most of the time the children look at me and they say, well, you know, I'm older.
You're 25 now, and they like, she's a lot older, so I
Yes,
understand.
right. But to have the young millennials coming back passionate about doing what they're doing. To have Renard come back, he's not teaching with us, but to say, I want to work with you. To have people say, that to me is extremely important because we are in a different place in our evolution as a group. And so I think this is an ultimate, a key.
You know, it is, I don't know what's happened, but I do actually remember, I've heard of your school, but this was decades ago now, I think about probably 15 or 20 years ago. I remember the school Ideal. I do remember this. It's over in the Deanwood area, not far from Industrial Bank, I think.
Yeah, that's where we are now, but we weren't there then. We only been there for about 3 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, before Idea, maybe you're looking at that one, but before we were always up in Northwest, and then we moved to off of North Capitol Street on R Street.
Okay. I remember the name, and you said there's another school with a similar name?
Yes.
Okay.
But they're on Sheriff Road over there.
Okay, I definitely remember this school, a school with a similar name. So basically, you have an environment where students can come. Now, is it a private school? Is it a charter school? Or how's it operate?
This is a private school.
Okay.
We are founders of a public charter school, which is also up in Northwest now. Ideal Academy Public Charter
Okay.
School.
Okay. So you have a public charter school and then you have a private school.
Yes.
Okay. So if a person is hearing this and they're listening now and they're interested in sending their child to the Academy for Ideal Education, which is on 4501 Dick Street Northeast in Deanwood, how would they go about the process of enrolling a student?
Well, we do have a website.
Okay.
So they could go to the website, or they can call us here, 202-269-3186. Is the main number. I also have a summer number that I'd like to give out.
Sure.
It's 202-269-3010.
Okay.
That is more direct.
Okay. Okay, and so you take children from kindergarten through 12th grade.
Yes, we do.
Okay, and you've been doing this over how long has that been now? You said 91?
Yeah, full-time school, 26 years.
26 years. So I want everybody out there that's tuning in, that's in the Washington, D.C. area. If you're interested, you have a child from kindergarten through 12th grade, you're looking at now. What about if there are people out there, because we know that there's some people that want to do it. Let me give you two numbers. One of them is 202-269-3186. Again, that's 202-269-3186. And the other one was?
202-269-3010.
Okay, 3010. So you can contact, who do they ask for? Or do they?
Well, they can ask for Mama Paulette.
Okay.
Or just let us know that they're interested in the school. One of the things we're starting a school within a school, Ideal Leadership Academy.
Okay.
And it's for the 6th through 8th grade. 6th through 12th grade, I'm sorry. But we really decided that we cannot continue to allow our leaders to be coincidentally trained. We have to take direct steps to train leaders. And so there's a group called the Young Activists at the Academy for Ideal Education. And the Young Activists, their leadership training comes through service. Their mission is we're going to serve our community and change the whole world. I'm excited about that whole process. We want to they already take icons or black leadership that both in the past and present as their ideal, and they study that particular individual. They go out into, they feed the homeless, they doing certain community service things through the summer. And we want to invite people who are interested.
Wow, I'm gonna tell you why that really stands out to me. First of all, I love looking at this flyer and seeing Brother Marcus Garvey on there. A lot of times we do things, and we put people on there, and he's left off. And from my research, he was like probably the most popular and effective in terms of galvanizing the masses of black people leader that we had in the 20th century, and he's often left out. And it's a pretty exciting proposition that there's an independent school in the Washington, D.C. area that's actually has a program that says instead of educating our children and waiting for one of them to decide to sprout and be the next Garvey, let's go ahead and train with a specific focus and goal of producing more Garveys, producing more Shirley Chisholms, producing more Ida B. Wells Barnett's, and more individuals of this ilk. And I think that's I haven't heard that. This is our engineer here. I haven't heard something of this nature and magnitude occurring. Actually, I'm trying to think. I knew that we used to, under Marion Barry Youth Leadership Program, there were things that were similar, but it's been probably decades since I actually heard about black people from an African-centered perspective saying that we're going to actually train our youth to be not just a general idea of leaders, but people who are working to service the black community. How did that come about? Did it come about because of a need or just something you've always felt?
Actually, it came about because one of the teachers that we have now, that was his vision in terms of the young activists. So he really inspired it, because I thought to myself as I watched him working with these young people, I really thought of how I started in education the same way, and how they gravitate, they look to him. He's very young, but he's very focused on what he wants to do. And then I thought, we have this male leadership here.
Use it.
And the willingness, the willingness to do it. So I really want to reach out to the cultural community and to the community in general, but those who really know how important this is. If we can look ahead, you will see that these young people will be the ones who will change the world. Now, I see, when I look at the many years that I've been in D.C., I've really been in education about 52 years. And when I look at the cultural community and the African-centered schools, who have turned out groups of small groups of youth, they are the ones who are in the schools teaching now. They are the ones who are running and trying to make a difference in the community.
So you're saying that it's not people who just got a whim and said, hey, I want to go help the black community. You're saying that the people that are out there in the community doing things now are ones that have gone through similar programs.
Many of them, the ones who are taking leadership in the cultural community. So that's why I say that we should make concerted effort. It's not even popular anymore to teach. And I think that black teachers are becoming an endangered species. Community workers, social workers.
And I agree with you. I think that part of the problem is that, unfortunately, these things that are probably more important and more needed than some of the other things that we have going on in our community are not as financially rewarding. And I don't know, but I think it's probably that way intentionally, because if you're in an environment, and I think that we can agree that it's a combative environment, the American environment for black people is a combative environment. It doesn't naturally nurture positive self-esteem for black men, black women, and black families. In many ways, some would argue that it seeks to pull apart black families at the root and at the seams in every way, shape, and form possible. And what I'm hearing you say is that part of the solution, or really one of the fundamental solutions to that problem of the conflict we have with this American society, which is largely white, which is largely hostile towards black development and progress, is that we insulate ourselves within the confines of nurturing environments where black young people who haven't been totally spoiled and destroyed by going through this combativeness can now come in where people are spending all their time trying to make them strong and vibrant and successful. And I really like what I'm liking the whole discussion that you're giving, because what I'm hearing is a holistic approach, not just we're going to make sure that, I haven't heard you say yet, we'll talk about this, but our students score at this level and this level. You know, he didn't come in and say that. He said, yeah, here's where I am, because you got to say that to kind of make the point. But I hear a lot of people focusing on specifically how there's, doing on tests. And I had a brother who's a phenomenal teacher, actually the best teacher I've ever run into. I mean, it's phenomenal what he does. And one thing he told me is the tests that they currently give our children teach nothing. They prove nothing except how well you can be brainwashed. Like, they don't force a child to think. It's purely memorization. But what I'm hearing you talk about, when you talk about the meditation and preparation for learning, a cultural environment that's nurturing, driving young people to not just you're going to pass school. We're going to make sure that part. You're going to learn how to read math. That's fine. But you're going to actually be accountable to being active and successful, in that you're not just going to make it, but you're going to come back to your community and be doing well enough that you can help others. And I don't think right now in the American educational system that that's a part of the component. Like, I haven't heard anybody say that they go into a public school in general, or any schools in this society outside of schools like yours that are designed to do this, that say their children are learning how to think. Their children are learning how to be African, how to be black. In other words, when we standardly think in this society of what it means to be black, and I'm gonna let you come in here and talk about this because you're younger. How old are you, son?
23.
You're 23, so you'll be able to speak to this better than me. But my perception of it, I'm 43, is that when you say the word black today, the first thing that comes to mind in terms of, not from a person with self-esteem, but just the society, the ideas are smoking marijuana, walking with your pants hanging off your behind, some tattoos, and some alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that that's a reasonable, that's what a lot of people think when they think black?
A lot of people see all of these misconceptions of blackness in our communities, and it's basically through like mainstream and just society. And like when you venture out and expose yourself, I exposed myself to Morehouse by going there, and I saw so many like Renaissance men. And because I didn't have a dad, I cling to a lot of like the male teachers who taught me and showed me how to be men. And I saw all of these positive examples and images of blackness, and I said, I have to be this. I have to mold myself into the best African American man that I can be, and go back into my communities so they can see that I come from here, and this is who I am, and this how I represent my blackness. So yeah, those images of blackness are crucial right now in this social, political, and economic environment that we live in.
So if you were to define blackness, we just talked about some of the negative things that people think. When you think blackness, what comes to your mind?
So when I think about blackness, I think about all of our descendants that came before us, all of those inventors and creators that really don't get that much credit, but they were great. And people that we see right here on this image, right on this flyer right here, that's what I think about blackness. Blackness, I think about like just greatness. And it's sad that we see all these negative images of blackness, like you said, pants sagging, smoking marijuana, thuggish, and that's not what blackness represents. Blackness represents intelligence. Blackness represents emotional stability. Blackness represents the trauma that we endured, that we overcame to get where we are today. And as we continue on this fight for equality, I think that, you know, like I said, the fight isn't over, and it's gonna come when we're going to see more images of blackness, and you know, I'm here to champion for that.
Okay, so you saying you're going to be one of those images
Yeah.
that people can see and say, hey, I'm proud to show my son or daughter this young. So you take that responsibility as one of your own.
Definitely, yes.
And and I'm gonna let my sister come in here. What part do you feel that going to the Academy for Ideal Education played in building that in your self-esteem or in your personality?
So Ideal was the foundation of it all. So I mean, just being entrenched in an Afrocentric environment and then going to an HBCU, I feel like I was already at an HBCU before I even went to one. So subconsciously, I just felt that type of energy, and you know, Ideal gave me that, and I didn't get that from where I was at before.
And those last, okay, so you left in 9th grade, and 10th, 11th, 12th was at Calvin Coolidge.
Yeah.
Was there a difference being there than it was when you were at this school?
Yeah, so when I went to Coolidge, I went there strictly to play football because Ideal didn't have a football team, and you know, I was kind of like an outlier. I didn't fit in. I wasn't hip with the Joneses, and I didn't, you know, yeah, like I said, I didn't fit in, and I played football there. I did well. Started varsity as a 10th grader as soon as I got there, all the way through all conference cornerback too. But like I said, it was much different. I mean, like you said, I didn't have the morning meditation. Breakfast wasn't required. You just had to be there for first period. So Ideal was much different than the public school system that I was in, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity that I had from 3rd to 9th grade.
So basically from after 9th grade, you just breezed through. You
Yeah.
breezed through the rest of high school because you was already.
I'll tell you like this: 9th grade year, that was the lowest GPA I had in high school. So I went to DCPS and blew it out the park. And the rest.
So it
was
was
just
more challenging, that idea, than when you got to the rest. It was like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah, and then that just foundation. Like I went there equipped with everything that I needed. Like I didn't have any behavioral problems. And then, like I said, it was just a breeze. Did well in athletics. The rest was history. Yeah.
I see you want to get in here.
Well, I was just thinking about some of the challenges that Raynard overcame in order to, say, get to varsity football. Because to me, it's amazing that, how tall were you?
I was 5'7", 133 pounds, and I started varsity at Coolidge.
I mean, I think that what I like to say is that there is a kind of determination, a kind of setting goals and how to go and get them that may have come from the kind of nurturing that he got at Ideal. Also that we have a character education program that is based on these individuals.
Mhm.
So we may be teaching courageousness or courage, and we'll use Harriet Tubman's story.
Mm.
So those kinds of things, when you're young, teach your child the way. So that gets ingrained into the system. So I really like to hear Raynard talk about what happened for him to come back and say this has impacted his life, because now we know that it is important to keep doing these things and to see the results. They may not be something that is so tangible, but they are like ingrained, because we know. There was, he came to speak at our 8th grade promotional exercise, and we have positive affirmations and poems that we use as a part of the day. And he reminded us of one of the ones that we use a lot is Nelson, well, we got it from Nelson Mandela, but Nelson Mandela got it from Miriam Williamson. And it is,
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And I spoke, that was my opening line to my keynote speech, because I recited this very poem in 6th grade at this school. And that poem just stuck with me throughout like my life to now. And I felt like it was very vital to, open up with that.
Now you said keynote speech, where was that?
Here at the 8th grade promotional exercise. So, yeah, I
You never forgot that.
yeah, never forgot it. 6th grade. I mean, I think it was a Black History Month ceremony, and I practiced this speech for, I guess, like 3 weeks, and I had to go up there nervous, and went up there, said it without reading it, and I did well. So it just stuck with me.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. That's what we want to hear.
yeah, that's what we want to hear. It's so much more important than whether or not you got high score
Yeah.
on a test. However, our children do well on tests.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Now, if people are asking or interested in knowing, well, what are their, how is your grading going in comparison to the regular school? So, perfect. Here we go. So I'm looking at a chart here that says, let's see, what is the blue and the red? So I want to
Okay,
make sure I
so
read it. Okay.
What we're saying, according to the standardized test, the average growth of an ideal student, AIE student, is between 23.5% and 31.5% annually, which is 3 times higher than the expected 10% growth of public